what I really appreciate about it is the humility in which you bring to the process, and being honest with how you really feel, like how you really felt going along this road. And I can't tell you the amount of people that I either come across, some that I coach, that they they haven't been this honest with themselves historically, because they had to play that role of the hero, the one who's always okay, the one who doesn't need to ask help from anybody. And I think that, like, this is something that is timeless, but it's also very relevant in today's world with what's going on. Is there are a lot of people who have no clue how to feel okay, how to calm their nervous system down, how to not have anxiety during this time period, because let's just say this time period um, must have felt like a physical, like, attack on their nervous system, on their business, on everything that made them feel secure, the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy. And so the fact that you mentioned that you were even capable of putting on that face, everything's great, when you noticed maybe not everything is that great, so you started tapping into how you're actually feeling, not this outer show that you were given,
Mm.
and you were able to be honest with that. That's something that I can say, like, for most people, the biggest obstacle in their way is always themselves. But the thing that gets in their way is they don't even see their suffering truly. They keep hiding it so they can look strong, powerful, not seem dependent upon other people. And I kind of feel like nowadays more people are resorting to what is actually tribal. It goes way back. It's super important, and that is the group, and allowing them to mirror you back to you. Because sometimes some people think that they are absolutely a mess, and others are like, "Nah, bro, you're having a hard moment, and it's going to be okay. I feel it. I see it in you. I see that you're strong. I can see you're confused, and I know this will last." And then other times we think we're okay, and others are mirroring back to us. There's something that's not okay going on inside you. And so there's something about the group and the mirrors and the relations that we have that can help us along that spiritual path. And I like the honesty that I'm hearing from you in that respect. And the bottom line is we're talking. I know so many people that are going through this, but you're also an influencer. And through that, you actually did something that I know most people, maybe not most people, but a lot of people wouldn't have done, which is shown yourself in a matter that makes you look, you know, not in control of who you are, not having
Mm.
everything figured out. And also, like, let's not pretend that looks are nothing. When half your face is drooping, there's a deep psychological thing that's like, am I really going to show my face to, I don't know how much, what your audience size was, but probably pretty hefty at that point, for you to
Mhm.
have to show yourself in a not very attractive mode. And that was finally what got people's attention. So
Yeah.
for one, I just want to honor that. And then I really want to ask, like, where or when did you decide to start your podcast? Because it looks like you're on episode 23, which was the otter episode. Um, so, like,
Yeah,
what
man.
prompted you to move into a podcast?
Firstly, I want to say, like I'm still doing a lot of this work. Like I'm still integrating everything that I'm learning about the breath and how to calm my nervous system and self soothe. And um, I think living in Cape Town, in the south of Cape Town, in the nature, surrounded by nature, with really not that many triggering things other than what I might find on the internet, it's quite easy for me to maintain a calm nervous system here. And that's actually been what's required over the last few months for me to actually do some deep resting and really come back to calmness.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like the honesty piece is one of the hardest aspects of all of this. It's hard. I found it hard as a man to admit that I was struggling, and I still do. I still do. I'll try all the ways of trying to figure it out myself before asking for help. And I think that's just kind of ingrained in us, and sort of programmed into us as men.
Yeah. We can't even ask for directions. We don't want to appear weak.
Yeah, we can't even ask for directions. You're right. Yeah, and that's something that is actually becoming less triggering and more fascinating for me. Like with a lot of these things, a lot of these aspects of this sort of awakening journey or a healing journey, it's like I'm allowing my curiosity to lead. And like, yeah, I mean, the New Perceptions podcast is a podcast that I started a couple of years ago. I was hoping to have a few more than 20 odd episodes in the bank by now, but again, it's along with a lot of my content that I have and haven't been putting out over the last couple of years, it's like I still don't feel entirely safe being completely vulnerable on the internet. And I think that's been partly to do with the crazy judgment that comes from putting yourself on the internet. But also partly because I've used the internet to earn my living for such a long time. And it feels scary to create content that I know is not only less popular than the happy-go-lucky kind of positive, almost overly positive some of the time content that people would rather tune into and escape from or be inspired by. To talk about deep shit is to hold a mirror up to whoever's listening. And it's like, I want to talk about some deep stuff. I want to get honest and talk about where I'm struggling. And if the person listening to that hasn't already been kind of introduced to that journey or done any of that internal work or faced up to their own demons or struggles, then it can be super triggering. Nobody wants to listen to that. So to the point where it's not like, okay, yeah, this isn't for me anymore, but people will literally attack you for being that open and honest. And that has also partly been because I made 1,300 odd videos on the internet, most of which are like high-end daily travel vlogs that I poured my heart and soul into. But there's also some really high-end travel films on there that I call visual vibes. So to go from creating this like inspiring travel content, which is mostly inspiring lifestyle content, to then say, oh, I'm actually not happy, and I'm actually going to need to do some deep internal work and take a long, hard look at myself in order to carry on. And you guys are going to have to wait. The free content is going to be on pause for a minute. And it's like, actually, it's not going to be on pause. I'm just going to allow my channel to be a reflection of where I'm actually at. And even though most people aren't going to be appreciating it or want to hear it, there's a whole bunch of people who are really appreciating the vulnerability and the sharing of the journey. I'm way off of perfection still. I'm like, and I think the beauty of sharing exactly where I am right now without worrying too much about whether I'm getting it right, or I'm saying the right things, but just sharing from a place of like truth and honesty. This is how I feel right now. That also gives other people permission to say, or not even to say it to someone else, but just say it to themselves and check in with themselves. And I think I found a lot of my purpose in that as well. I found a lot of yeah, it feeds me to help other people to understand themselves better and to just check in and not necessarily go on some mad spiritual um, psychedelic adventure where you become some shaman or like a healer at the end of it, but just to check in and be like, how actually are you? How are you doing? That's just one element of it. And then there is the element of me actually going down the rabbit hole a little bit further and asking like, well, how does all of this work? And like, I'm starting to realize that most of what I've learned in my life, I'm having to now unlearn in order to make space for like actual reality to like drop in. And how far does that rabbit hole go? You know, so that's one aspect of like the psychonaut kind of exploration that I'm interested in. But the what's come out of this journey for me is like this purpose-driven, permission slip giving. You can feel your feelings. It's okay. Like show up just in your absolute deepest authenticity right now. What's real for you right now, with no mask, with no nothing. Just give it to me raw, because I can hold that space for you. And actually, not just on the internet, but in real life, that's really come online for me as well. Like holding space for people and just lending an ear, like a non-judgmental, purely compassionate. And I find in those times when if it's a friend or just someone I've met like at a music festival, sometimes one of my viewers that I meet at these the music festival scene in South Africa before the pandemic is like world class. And I'll meet these young dudes who have been watching my content since they were 15 on the side of a dance floor at these music festivals. And sometimes they just want to open up to me and start telling me about their stuff. And there's a part of me that comes online that's like, yeah, this is actually feeding me too. And this person is maybe feeling seen and heard for the first time ever. And that really triggered something in me that I'm really diving into a little bit more, especially in when it comes to holding space for men and the men's work movement. I don't know if you're familiar with the organization called Sacred Sons.
Yeah.
You know those guys?
Yeah, that's a really cool group, and something that men probably wouldn't have sought out on their own. Really, like it's such a good idea. You could follow them on Instagram. Beautiful images of full-grown men being embraced by other men, hands to the heart, so that person can cry and not have to feel like that's something weird or something that men shouldn't do.
Yeah, that was a pivotal experience of mine in my journey for sure. It's beautiful imagery and they nail all of their content. But it's their live events and their online events actually that really are incredibly healing for men. And in my experience, I went out to California and did two back-to-back weekends with them. And in between the weekends, also did a level 1 facilitator training to learn how to run a men's circle, which interestingly, like just 2 hours before we got on this podcast, I was holding space for and hosting. I have a men's circle online on Zoom. And it's such a beautifully healing space to be in. And if you're a man or identify as masculine as a being, it's like, and you're interested in doing this deep healing work, men's work is, I believe, one of the pivotal things that is going to completely help shift humanity into this, what some people, I suppose, would call like a new earth, or just a new, more expanded conscious paradigm where men aren't operating from a state of fear where they want to dominate. They're operating from a state of lack where there's not enough resources, so I have to take and hoard it, all of these old paradigms that sort of the masculine has been operating from, is reflected in the patriarchy, really. Like there are groups of men who are helping to heal that wounded masculine, like the father wound, basically, that causes that sort of inherited multi-generational, potentially wound of not feeling like you're enough, not feeling like you're lovable, unless you achieve something. And these are quite like common threads throughout a man's experience in the 21st century, which is why we, as men, often find ourselves from a subconscious space, like competing for women, competing for money, competing for power. And this is, I believe, one of the main reasons why we're in this a bit of a sticky situation at the moment, is because of a lot of men are operating from that unhealed, maybe emotionally scarred or traumatized young boy within them. And men's work really has, in my experience, really allowed me to not just shine a light on those aspects of me. And of course, with all of these healing practices, it's like, hey, you got to feel it to heal it. You got to like have a good cry, or you got to rage out and feel that anger and allow the emotion to actually shift, so you don't carry it in your physical body anymore. But to take it to a deeper level, and on these weekends, these like men's retreats, basically, to be witnessed by other men with open hearts who are doing this work too, be witnessed in your process like that, it heals that father wound. And it helped me say, oh fuck, there are men that the young boy within me can really trust. And now the young boy within me can really trust me too. And then I start acting from that, let's say, like the initiated masculine consciousness, as opposed to the juvenile masculine consciousness, which is like a fear-based operating system, I suppose. So that's something that's super interesting to me, in terms of big humanity shifts that we're moving through at the moment. And Sacred Sons are just killing that facilitation game. So yeah, if you're a dude and you're interested in this healing work, and you're interested in like showing up, or at least being and participating in a movement of men being more safe to be around, if you're interested in that, definitely check out Sacred Sons, at Sacred Sons on Instagram.
Make sure y'all head over to benjosephstewart.com, become a member. You'll have access to the growing library of deeper dives, where I talk about all the stuff that I really can't talk about on YouTube. Make sure you get involved in the Discord chat. That's where a lot of the conversation is happening, talking about new theories, being able to interweave into the greater conversation that is how we awaken infinity. That's our highest potential. And I just want to remind you, you are the most powerful technology ever known to creation. Wield it like an artist with a conscience.